Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to The Doctor Will See You Now. I hope you've been enjoying this weekly consultation with a number of the authors who should have been appearing at Newcastle Noir 2020. And I'm just really grateful and excited that we can still bring you these authors on this weekly basis of just getting to know them better, getting to know what's happening with their work. And this evening, I have the great pleasure to introduce to you Ian Patrick. Good evening, Ian. Hi, welcome.
Good evening, Doctor. How are you?
I'm very well. It is wonderful to see you here. I'm so glad that we've been able to connect like this. And before I introduce you to the viewers out there, I wonder, could you do us the favour of just holding up what we said you would hold up to the camera just for a moment?
Yes, certainly. Here it is. So this is the cover art for my latest book.
Beautiful.
In a nice frame, you see, well presented.
It's gorgeous. And I want you to do that again later when we analyse it.
No problem at all.
Lovely. So just to say to you viewers, again, we try and do these interviews to coincide with probably one of the most important moments in any author's life, and that of a book being published. That publication day is so important. And so How the Wired Weep, I do believe it was published on the 19th of June. Is that right,
Yeah,
Ian?
that's right, yeah. I have two books with Fahrenheit Press, which is Rubicon and Stone Glove. And there's a third book with them called Fool's Gold. But that hasn't come out yet. And I was just conscious with the whole lockdown thing and people needing new stuff to read, that I thought, you know what, I'm gonna bring this one out myself. And it's also quite a baby of mine anyway. So It was really nice for me to work with an editor, work with a cover artist, and bring it all together and get it out as best as I could. And yeah, I mean, I'm really pleased with it.
It's wonderful. I think, again, you know, we're in these times, although we are starting to emerge, but I do hope you are all still staying safe.
Yes.
Okay, just because there's been some kind of release, please don't go crazy. But again, just to come back to that notion of being able to get ideas and books out to people, because, you know, I'm a great believer in that reading and even writing, you know, can help us through really tricky times. So before we talk, though, about that latest novel, if I can introduce you to any of the viewers who might not be familiar with you.
Yeah.
And so you used to be a Metropolitan Police officer. I do believe you were there for 27 years.
Right,
and the majority of that time as a detective sergeant with the Special Operations Command. And as somebody from outside, you know, those words just sound like, wow, amazing. I also read that you specialised in child protection and was part of a major investigation team that targeted abusers and investigated the murder of children. Probably a very difficult and tricky job. Can I come back, though, to the notion of being a detective sergeant?
Yeah.
And what did you enjoy about that role, that job? What did it mean to you? Because you did it for a long time by the looks of it. So I don't think it was just a whim.
No, not at all. I think for me, it was just the joy of I mean, I was very privileged in running teams of officers in investigating major crime and just seeing them flourish, you know, and grow as detectives and PCs who were aspiring to detective duty, and just imparting what knowledge I'd had and built up along the way, and kind of mentoring people, really, buoying them up and seeing them through. And as a result of that, I mean, I was very fortunate with the staff I had. In every unit I was on, be it with the Sapphire Command or the Major Investigation Team, I just had great people with me whom, you know, leadership to me isn't all about dictating what should be done. It's about listening to the people you've got around you, and it's a collective thing. I mean, ultimately, some decisions had to fall down to me because that's what I took the rank for, but they were very few and far between. You know, most of the people I worked with got on and did a great job, fantastic job actually. So yeah, I was very fortunate, very fortunate.
I love the way you talk about your job and that connection with people. And I just wonder, you know, from police officer at that rank to crime writer, and you must be the envy of many a fellow author, given given that bank of knowledge. You know, it's like you don't even need to go and say, I better go and like sort of like try and get in contact with the local police force, because it's like, I know I was there. But I just wonder that making that change, again, for anybody who doesn't know you, if you can talk to us about why make the change and how it's been for you, you know, to be now that person that's known for your writing.
Okay, well, I mean, I've always written, even when I was in the job, the police. As we called it the job, but it's the police. And I did manage 27 years service, but towards the end, I realised that something was going wrong with my mobility. So like people I was with were questioning why I was walking funny upstairs and stuff like that. Did I have a bad back? And anyway, it all got explored, and it transpires I got some form of rare muscular dystrophy. So that kind of curtailed my ability to do the job I love doing. And I took the decision to take early retirement because I didn't know how this was going to affect me, and I wanted to kind of still have some decent years left post-police. So I thought, well, if I'm going to be sat down a lot, because I now have to use a chair, I thought, well, why don't I have a go at writing? And it was literally that. I mean, I just thought I'll give it a go. And at the time, No Exit Press had a competition for short story, and if you won the short story, you get a publishing contract. Well, I put in what is effectively the first chapter of Rubicon, my debut, and that got all the way down to the final 3, and it was judged independently. I didn't win, but I thought to myself, do you know what, I can obviously write.
Yeah, so there's something there. Yeah,
there's something there. I mean, it's been judged. People said they enjoyed it, so I continued then, and Rubicon was born out of that. And I've not stopped. I mean, I really enjoy it, absolutely enjoy it. I mean, one thing you mentioned earlier was about the fact that if you're in the police, you have this whole bank of knowledge that you can draw upon and use, which can be a bit of a poison chalice because because you have to fictionalize what you're writing. Try not too procedurally heavy, because otherwise it gets quite dull. And sometimes I am a bit like that in the first draft of it, and then I have to go back through and start chopping bits to make it a bit, take that out and keep the element of story, a character-driven story going, rather than overload it and get bogged down in procedure. Because really, police procedure is pretty dull, and you know it doesn't make for good fiction reading. So I've also chosen areas of my policing to write about that I'm confident in the knowledge of, because it changes all the time as well.
As with many things in life.
Yeah, you could start writing about something and someone says, oh, that doesn't happen anymore, and you'd be like, okay, fair enough. But you'd hope that the story would drive it more than the procedure. That's what I always aim for with my writing.
Thank you. So Rubicon and Stoned Love.
Yeah.
And they are both, as you say, published by Fahrenheit Press, yeah?
Yeah. Great indie publisher, great indie
exactly, yeah. Shout out to Fahrenheit. Great range of work there. It's always really, really gritty. It's good biting stuff there from Fahrenheit.
It is. Then, when we're on that topic, I mean, if it wasn't for them, Rubicon wouldn't have been published. You know, they took a risk. And all credit to Chris McVeigh. I mean, he read it, he loved it, he took it on, and he published it.
So did you approach them? Did you do the thing of putting the work out far and wide?
Not wide, no. I mean, essentially, I had it with about 3 publishers, but I narrowed it down to 3 that I thought would get it,
Mm.
and Chris got it. He just got it, and so it was like, okay, let's go. And from there, I mean, it's like the BBC have optioned it for a TV. Yeah, 6-part TV series. It's still there. It's still in the development phase. It's not gone away.
Hmm.
So it could be hitting the screen. So like,
That's exciting.
fingers crossed. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
lots of stuff gets optioned and doesn't get there, but I'm confident in this. I think it will. I really do think it will.
But I also think in what you've just said, I also think it's important to remember there's a lot of stuff doesn't even get optioned. So
Yeah. So
yeah.
I was over the moon with it. Absolutely over the moon.
But if we can turn now to the book in
Yes.
question, How the Wired Weep, and this is self-published, is it not? Is this?
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's like I said, it's taken me a couple of years to write it. It's a book that I feel very personal about. So I just wanted to make sure that if anything was wrong with it, there was one person to blame. That was me.
I wonder. I'm really excited though by the fact of A, this book, B, why you did it, but C, then this doing it self-published. And how did you find the experience?
It's pretty hard. I mean, it's pretty hard work. It's a lot of hard work, and I think you know, working with an editor that was very good, and working with the cover artist was really good to bring the cover together, and then trying to put that all together into the book form to get it up onto the Amazon platform. It's all a big learning experience, but from the feedback I've had so far, it's people are really enjoying it, you know, and that means a lot to me.
Yeah, I just want to say to people, if you are not familiar with Ian's work, this is a great place to start because this isn't part of the series or anything like that, is it? This is
a standalone, and
yeah.
as far as I'm concerned, it will just remain as it is. I think it's a wonderful standalone book. I think it would ruin it to continue it as a series.
Yeah.
I just don't. I think if you've read it and you know the way it ends, you just think, well, for me anyway. I mean, I just thought I'm really proud of it. To be fair, really, really proud of it. Everything I've written, this one I'm very, very proud of.
Yeah, and I think again, just to say to people, this is really a place to start. I think with Ian. So do us the favour again of hold up, because I want to do a little analysis of that book cover there.
Yeah. So is that in the screen? I don't know.
That is beautiful. I can see it, and I'm sure viewers can be in there. So now, there we have barbed wire.
Yeah.
2 guys on a spike of that barbed wire, and in the backdrop there's a big city. Yeah. So go with me, because it's been a while since I've been doing that university work and I do miss it. So that barbed wire, and interestingly enough, it is vertical, it is not horizontal. Can you speak to us why on the cover you've got barbed wire?
Well, I mean, normally wire denotes a divide. You know, there's it's almost with all the spikes and all the barbs, it's saying you shouldn't cross it. You know, but sometimes, like we all know, we've got to cross it. Sometimes you've got to pull that barbed wire down or the wire down and step over it, even if you're a bit unsure about what's going to be on the other side. You know, and I think that really denotes it well. And the other thing I kind of liked about it was, although it is barbed wire, it also gives the impression of a telephone line to me, and like fingers squeezing it.
Oh, yeah.
Because actually, the word wired to me can mean everything from, as in, you know, a telephone tap being wired like that, but this is more about individuals being the way life can affect them. And you can say, look, I feel really wired, you know, I like it's more, it's exploring more of that. And it is set in London, so hence the urban background, and it effectively explores the lives of 2 people: Ed Hunter, who's a DS on a covert unit, and a guy called Ben, who is his source or informant, as some people might know.
Yeah. So these two images then, human forms there on the wire, on those opposite spikes.
Yes.
So these two guys now. So you can put it down now. Don't you just be there holding it on. But it's good for us to get that image and think about that. Thank you so much for doing that.
And that is a guy called Mark Swan who designed that, who's a designer in Brighton for cover art, 20 years plus experience. And when he agreed to take the project on, I was over the moon. Really, really chuffed. And, you know, what he's come up with is, stunning to me. I mean, it says it all, really.
It's beautiful and impactful. And I want you then to talk to us about Ed and Ben. Again, the way you have structured the novel, and that each chapter bears the name of one or the other all the way through. You know, those voices back and forth.
Yeah.
I felt it. What I could. It was either, to me, it was either, again, as you say, it was either that telephone call, or it was a song, or it was very much identities and personalities and emotions bouncing off one another.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you've hit the nail on the head with it. I mean, it's you've effectively got two people who have different demands and pressures from their organisations. So you've got Ben, who's getting demands and pressures from a guy called Troy in a criminal organisation, and then you've got Ed, who's getting demands and pressures from senior management, because I've set it in 2012 when it was the Olympic Games in London, and there was a big drive against organised and gang crime. You know, it wouldn't look very good for the streets if there was a lot going on when you had tourists from across the world coming, you know. So there was a big drive on to kind of reduce crime. And that was an arena I was working in at the time. And I got to meet an awful lot of people from very diverse walks of life, and every single one I met had a unique story to tell, and they were all just, we're all just human beings at the end of the day, but we've all got different things that we have to cope with in life and get on with. And just because someone's path goes a different way doesn't mean that their struggles are any less than what you might be going through. And so I try to explore that throughout the book. Although it is crime based, and some of it might, some of it is hard crime, but that's what I was dealing with. And and so I like to bring that into my stories.
But I do think as well, though, that said, that there is very much that insight into, it's not just people doing these things, but the nuance around people's emotions to do with these things, and the repercussions, and what this means.
I think a lot of it is that choice in life, and sometimes we can think that people have choices, and that say certainly within criminality, and that they got a choice to get out of it rather than continue. But that is often not the case, especially when you're dealing with gang-enabled crime or organised criminality. It's not just easy. It's not so easy just to say, that's it, I've had enough now, thank you very much.
Can I ask you a question that just, it's there in the novel, but the real life experience? And it would appear that there is no way to bring an end to this, that this Hydra monster of organised crime or gangs, that once you chop off one element, it will grow again, it will multiply. I mean, is that perception correct? Or when you were working in this world, did you see that there is a way forward in order to contain this? Will there ever be an end to this? Just because you've worked in that, and I hope you don't mind me asking, but it's something that fascinates me. Is this always ever a losing battle, or is there a way to stem that tide?
Well, pre-austerity, there was great inroads being made into getting into communities through home beat officers, neighbourhood teams, schools, to kind of get a listening watch as to what were the main concerns and what was happening. But then along came austerity, and with 7 years of that, massive swathes of cuts, all those precious links that were built up went. Mm. And, you know, we're now just beginning to see what the effects of that are. And, you know, and the police are getting a backlash of that. And, you know, it saddens me really, because I mean, I worked through austerity. You know, I heard the messages that were passed down to us. I saw the effects of it. I saw the effects of morale on my staff, everything. And it was very sad to see a lot of hard work that people put in, a lot of time, often unpaid, you know, and some of the best stories don't get heard, do they?
Yes, indeed. I mean, because I think that's, you know, the issue. It doesn't sell. The idea of news. But thank you, Ian, for sharing that. And come back with me now to the book, if you will. I read in the acknowledgements, because I think in the acknowledgements there's much to be found about an author and their motivations.
You're right.
Yeah, and I read, and I thought it was beautiful, that how the Wired Weep really, you know, came into being because your wife said to you, write something different. Yeah.
Yes. So I'd finished the end of Fool's Gold, and my wife is always my first reader, and she read it and she was like, you can't have that ending, Ian. Right. And I was like, well, why not? And we kind of explored it a little bit more, and I think she was absolutely right. I don't think my head was in a great place then, to be fair. Okay. I think I had a lot of stress. You know, I recently left the police, you know, very, very demanding role I was in. And writing then about a corrupt officer, that took its toll on my mind, because that isn't me. But with that character in particular, I decided to make it interesting to write by switching up entirely the protagonist's personality to mine. So that was really challenging for me to write that. Very, very challenging. And I think by the end of Fool's Gold, she was right. I needed a break. I needed to move away from that and look at something different. And that's how the Wired Weep came out.
I really, it's so encouraging, you know, to hear that you know, the person closest to you, you know, being able to sit down, talk these things through, and find a way forward, you know.
Yeah, it's not always simple.
No, because I was going to say, you know,
she says I often have my diva moments of like, you know, so it'll be tentatively put, but in the end, you know, you do have to listen, because I can't always get it right, and I need that other opinion to make sure that I'm doing justice to the book and justice to the reader, because at the end of the day, the reader gives a lot of their precious time to pick up your book and go through it. And I'm not for wasting a reader's time. You know, my whole aim of this was to give people like myself who might be having a bad day, you know, for whatever reason, and they want an escape, and they want to pick up a book and they want to be taken to another place and be entertained. And that's what I hope with everything I write. Is that it's fast-paced, it's gritty, but they'll be on a journey, and hopefully one that they'll enjoy.
Totally. I would like to think that people would. As I say, I would definitely recommend this. I want us, if we can, to go back to Ed and Ben, and at points when I've been, you know, had the wonderful pleasure of being with authors in this situation whilst we've been in lockdown. And Susan Heads at the book trail.
Yes, I know Susan.
You know Susan, yeah. Well, one of the questions that she posed at the start of May for authors was, in lockdown, you have to have one of your characters there in the house. It's all right, you don't have to get rid of anybody else.
Okay.
Who would you have and why? So I want you to make the difficult choice between Ed and Ben, and tell me which one you'd choose and why not the other.
I mean, without a shadow of a doubt, I choose Ben.
Mm-hmm.
Without a shadow of a doubt. I might have to watch my property, you know? But I think more often than not, it's about having that, again, time, because time is so valuable. To be with someone of Ben's character and to try and understand where he may be coming from in terms of his background and his life, rather than dictate what that person's life path should be. You get what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So just listen first. Find out exactly how you may be able to help, because that would be the best thing for me. And that was always my main drive within that role, was to try and get people away from crime. But it's so difficult. It's so difficult. But I'd hope I changed some life paths along the way. But you can't win them all. But I mean, yeah, definitely, Ben. Definitely.
You go, and okay, so you've said why, but why not Ed?
Because at the end of the day, Ed's got his problems. He's got some difficulties at home, but they're more to do with starting family and how that may not be as easy as the couple first thought. But at the end of the day, he has a house he can go back to. He has someone there who's waiting for him at the end of the day, who wants him there. And he has regular money coming in. He can feed himself. He's got a roof over his head. You know, that's privilege. So, yeah, it's like, you'll manage, Ed. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Whereas Ben, it would be good to take Ben in. Yeah.
Definitely so. Yeah, definitely so. Because you know that is not Ben's experience. Mm-hmm. As much as he might want that, whether he could live that life or not would be another question entirely. And that could be a whole separate book. But like, I think that was the thing about working in that way, was that you couldn't impose your own lifestyles on the people you were working with, you know, because they are more often than not polar opposites. But you had to respect the skill set that they were bringing to the that's the phone was falling down. You had to. It's
not broken, has it? No.
You had to respect the skill set that they were bringing to the table, because that's what you needed and that's what you wanted in order to try and reduce crime and bring offenders to justice.
And the choosing then, you know, you mentioned life in 2012, the Olympic Games, the expectations of London and how London should look to all the visitors.
Yeah.
Was that your first choice of context in developing the storyline, or were there other contenders, forgive the pun, for a time setting?
Well, that's a really good question, because I never plan what I'm going to write. So normally it will start with a character, or it will start with a first chapter. I never know how it's going to go. So I think probably the whole Olympic Games came in right towards the end. But what I found now looking back at it, is that it was a time when money was no matter, you know, and yet but obviously it was known what was going to happen afterwards, you know, because once the Olympic Games shut down, everyone knows, you know, your trains started to play up again, you know, the lifts that were there for accessibility suddenly went, you know, and travel got a lot worse. So it was a fake setup. So the whole thing was just like we were working in a bubble. and it was just for a very short period of time, but it felt very false.
Do you know, as you're speaking, I'm really enjoying the conversation, although sad in a way, because it makes me think, given what we have seen since 2012 and where we're at now, it's almost like that was the last hurrah, before we began this downward spiral into who knows where.
Yeah, it can. Yeah, no, I guess life can sometimes be like that, and it can appear like that. And I guess I just try and focus on each day at a time. I mean, I'd love to say I try and focus on every moment at a time, but that would be a lie. I mean, it would be something I'd like to aspire to, but I'm definitely not that way. But I mean, in terms of like planning for writing and stuff, I just don't plan it.
But the whole notion of storytelling in difficult times, again, I want to thank you for being one of those who allow us a moment of escape, and even escape into danger, and and those mean streets. But it's okay, because the book will close, and the safety
I think
of the closing.
Yeah, I mean, there are some moments of danger in there, but they're just there to heighten the tension. And but there's more. There's a lot. What I've found about this book is that there's a lot of depth to it. There's a lot going on below the surface, and if readers get that, then I'm hoping that when they get to the end, it will be oh my God, I wasn't expecting that moment. Because I love the end of it. Absolutely love the end of it, and I just hope that readers get that far, because I mean, I'd say really kind of just relax with the book, and if you decide to, and just enjoy the journey of these two people, because it's not all about crime.
Exactly, not at all. No. And the perspectives that you bring out. So I'm a bit sad, because time is never on our side here in the consulting room, because there's always the next part.
Back for part 2, Doctor.
Yes.
If anybody wants it, I'm more than willing to do that.
Wonderful. Bring your discussion points. But what I would just like for you to bring out again, so for people wanting to get hold of a copy of How the Wired Weep, what forms is it in, and where can we get hold of it?
Okay, so at the moment I've got it on Amazon, so they can buy it on Kindle. It's also in Kindle Unlimited. I've also set it so, if you buy it and someone wants it, that you can share it for a certain amount of time.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah.
And I'm getting a paperback proof this week. So providing that's okay, it'll be up for sale on paperback as well. And that includes large print.
Wonderful.
Because I mean, to me, reading is all about accessibility. And if eventually I can get it onto audio, that would be fantastic too. Just to try and get as many people able to enjoy the story as I possibly can. That's my main aim. But it's time. It sees how well it does. I'm really proud of it. So, and I've had 6 people who've left reviews on Amazon at the moment, and it's lovely to see the kind of what they've taken from it. So to me, I've already achieved what I set out to do. And if I could see or hear about more people enjoying it, that would just make my day.
Wonderful. I am sure you will. I am sure those reviews will grow. Ian Patrick, thank you for joining us this evening. It has been a wonderful discussion. You've taken me to places that I didn't even think that you would. So that is wonderful.
And thank you as well for all you do.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure.
Organising that Newcastle Noir, and how you prioritise accessibility. Because as a wheelchair user, I would not hesitate to come to any of your events. because I know that if you can, you'll make accessibility key, and not just for people like me, but you know, and that means a lot. So it was no problem me saying yes to come on today. It absolutely for you, anytime.
Thank you, thank you. And as I've been saying to people, you know, hopefully, you know, we will have this virus dealt with by next year. And the plan is just to roll the festival out as it would have been. So please, you know, please do come back in real life, in the flesh.
I'd love to. Absolutely love to.
For 2021, yeah?
And thank you to everyone who's listened to this as well. Very much appreciated. And hopefully we can meet again soon in real life, as it were.
Totally, totally. Good night for now.
Good night. Take care, everybody.
Okay, bye. Bye.